Okay, we are officially recording and we are live. Welcome, Toros. My name is Felicia Hernandez. I'm the Director of Alumni Relations. Thank you all for joining us this evening to learn about our Toro Industry Day featuring the Los Angeles Dodgers. If you have not already heard, the buzz around campus is that we will be going to Dodger Stadium Sunday, September 25th for the 1 o'clock game against the St. Louis Cardinals. And if you haven't already purchased your ticket, I encourage you to do so because we are taking over the stadium. Along with your ticket purchase, you will receive a co-branded Dodger cap that will be an LA burgundy hat with CSUDH on the side, along with the DH horns underneath the bill. So we're super excited and hope that you are able to participate and watch President Parham and Teddy and a few others be on the field as part of the pre-game ceremony. So thank you for joining us. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and begin and introduce some folks. I'd like to start with my right-hand man, Gilbert. I'm going to spotlight him and to let him know that Gilbert Hernandez, #no relation. He is our Senior Coordinator of Alumni Relations. Oh, look at you. You are multitasking there.
I am moving around just for our alumni. Yes, I'm making sure to find more alumni for us here. So yes.
Thanks, Gilbert. Okay, please proceed.
On the road.
And along with, we have our interim director, Dr. Brenda Mendez, who is our interim director of our Career Center and who will be facilitating this evening's discussion. And then we have our two panelists, Nicholas Cisneros, who is a current student and also a senior here on campus, who works for the Los Angeles Dodgers Foundation. And we're going to learn a little bit more about him. Joined with him is our alumna, Catalina Lara, also known as Kathy. Kathy, how would you like us to address you? I didn't ask.
Catalina's fine.
Catalina? Okay, perfect. Catalina joins us as part of our, let me make sure I get this right. She is currently the actually the first senior manager of a minor league education and learning for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So we welcome both of them. So just want to say thank you all for joining us. I know for these Toro Industry Days, the purpose of this program is to share with all of you the job opportunities that are within organizations. You may think maybe the Los Angeles Dodgers is just for athletes. Actually, there's a whole organization behind the Los Angeles Dodgers that you can use your degree no matter what it is, between education, communication, marketing, HR. There's a variety of different ways that you can utilize your degree. And so we wanted to make sure that you all knew about it. And if you're thinking about what opportunities there are, we have Nicholas and Catalina who will be able to share with you how they got their foot in the door and how you can as well. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Brenda Mendez to begin today's panel.
Thanks, Felicia, Nicholas, Catalina. So thank you so much for joining us. It's really exciting to have fellow Toros. Good evening, Toros. I myself am also an alum of CSUDH. I got my master's in counseling there. So it's really exciting to be able to support students and to learn as well. So I'm going to kick off our panel discussion. So I'm going to ask my first question, which is a great way to introduce yourself, right? So if you can both each introduce yourselves, tell a little bit about who you are, a brief overview of your role and your role within the organization.
Kathy, would you like to go first, or would you like?
Thank you. I'll go first. Thanks, Nicholas. Okay, so I'm Catalina Lara and Kathy as well. So the reason why I go by both is because I was never really called Catalina unless I was in trouble or at school. It was always Kathy in Spanish. And so my brothers just, we started speaking English. It just transitioned to Kathy. So it goes back and forth. I'm currently, like Dr. Mendez just mentioned, the Senior Manager of Education and Learning for the minor league system of the Dodgers. And I think that, as was mentioned before, the sports industry is just huge. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes, and player development is one aspect that one doesn't really think about. I know I didn't. baseball player development is under baseball operations, and so I fall under baseball operations, which is the hands-on with the game and the players, versus kind of corporate or our nonprofit that also exists. So there's definitely there's a lot of opportunity within the organization. I oversee all education and learning for player development. That means that, so just a little bit of background on what that actually means. We sign players internationally, mostly from Latin America, as young as 16. And when they are signed, they go to our academy, Campo Las Palmas, in the Dominican Republic. And that's where they stay until they're just about, or they hit 18 or 19 when they transition over to Camelback Ranch, which is if you've gone to spring training, that's where our players all begin. All minor league players who are drafted, sign, that's their first stop in the United States. And then subsequently, we have the minor league system. Rancho Cucamonga comes next, Great Lakes, Michigan, and then we have 2 teams in Oklahoma. And so I oversee the education initiatives, at each part of that. Heavy on the Campo Las Palmas, getting an education program going there. That's a little bit more holistic. And then in Camelback Ranch, it's more like acculturation and what is it that they need once they come to the U.S. along with English. There's a lot of life skills. Any of you who've immigrated to a new country or whose family like mine immigrated here, there's just so much that you don't expect and that you encounter. And so we try to get ahead of that and provide the education and the resources and environment where they can still thrive while they're getting used to the environment. The other thing that I do, I provide training for coaching staff and for any of the staff from player development as far as pedagogy, teaching methods, because that's my background. My doctorate is in educational psychology, how people learn. And so player development is all about learning and, nutrition, pitching, hitting, all of it. They're all, these players are learning. And so the coaching staff to me are all instructors. And then I also delve in diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's kind of organic, but that's also a little bit separate, and I'll talk about that later.
And for myself, first off, I wanted to say thank you for having me. Really excited for this. Also wanted to say hi, Mom. I know she's in here somewhere on the Zoom. So a little bit about myself. I am a senior at here at Dominguez. Well, not here, but at Dominguez. I am a sports entertainment and hospitality major. Now, people usually get a little surprised when I explain that. They don't realize that that is a major. But I'm having a lot of fun learning the insights of, sports, all that. So what I do is I work with the Dodgers Foundation, and more specifically, I am considered a field champion. So we take care of more of the community-based work. So we're usually assigned to a park, and we work as a representative. We help with the grants and everything. We help set up the events that the Dodgers are throwing. We're also assigned to a team, so we coach as well. And we're trained into we're trained to not only just be coaches, but also we're trained in trauma-based therapy. So understanding where the kids are coming from, knowing that we were there at one point as well. And just being a good, not just a good coach, but a good mentor. So I was a part of the RBI program, and when I was young. So now it's called the Dream Team, and that's what I'm a part of. So I was a part of the RBI program. So for me, it's a lot of the experiences that I got growing up. I realized the great things that I liked about playing with them. I realized what I liked about my favorite coaches that were there, and I wanted to be a part of that. I really wanted to be involved more in the community. Right now I'm currently at Gonzalez Park. So we just finished our season not too long ago, a few weeks ago, for my juniors team. So that's high school kids. So just being a coach to them, and like I said, also just being that sometimes you have to step in as a therapist. Sometimes you have to step in as a tutor. Sometimes you're there as another parent, like I was mentioning before. Sometimes, a lot of times, sometimes you're even the first parent to a lot of these kids, as sad as it sounds, but, we want to be there to just, help them grow along this, through high school and throughout college and anything, above that. So that way they're ready for, not just baseball, but anything else that the world throws at them. And, I'm confident that all the kids that I've worked with are on a great path. And I hope that, I just hope to continue that as well.
Thank you so much. You covered a little bit of my second question, but I did want to ask as well. So, and then Nicholas, I know your career is starting, right? As you work, continue to do your work, and Catalina, you're established with the Dodgers, but this question does apply to both of you. What has that looked like, right? Like, what has your career path look like? Does and did your degree or degrees from CSUDH and elsewhere prepare you for your current role, and how?
Nicholas, if you want to start.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So for myself, I had always just loved baseball. Very fortunate enough, my family is, we're all huge Dodger fans. That's all, everybody's known us as growing up. So I'm very fortunate that my mom and dad would take us to games very often as we were kids. So from then we just continued, all of us just grow, and we always take our friends, people love it. And I just always loved, not introducing, but, showing people baseball. I want them to understand why I love baseball. And a lot of things that I've learned in baseball, I carry on to, anything else that I do, whether that's schoolwork, whether that's another job that I'm in. I always like to just carry the things that I learned in baseball onto, these other fields that I'm doing. So for me, when I was, so the way I was introduced to the Dodgers Foundation is, I was fortunate enough to do a camp when I was 12 years old. From there, my mom noticed that there was a lot of high school kids volunteering. So my mom, as soon as I turned 15, looked into it. She found out that I was able to volunteer. And from there, I started doing it for community hours. So I'd be there 4 days a week, but I'd be there for maybe 5-6 hours. But, I had a lot of fun. I was meeting a lot of the players, a lot of the coaching staff that I'm still in touch with today. So if I go to the field, a lot of people remember me from when I was like 15, and it's cool to see that, to grow into that, to be, Dodger Stadium's like a second home to me. So, when I last year I was sent an email and for an opening, and it said field champion. So I was intrigued. I wasn't too sure what it was, and it is a relatively new position, but it's part of not just the Dodgers Foundation, but Up to Us Sports. And what Up to Us Sports is a youth-based sports development program. So just like I explained before, we do a lot of work. Not just being a coach, but just being able to work with kids in general. So once I started that, I fell in love. We do all these events, we help out in the community. It's really fun seeing a lot of these kids get as excited as I was when I was their age, when I was playing baseball, and being able to do that, it means a lot to me. And, just a lot of cool opportunities as well. I was lucky enough to go to the Dodgers Gala, the Dodgers Foundation Gala. So that was, real fun. That's one of the many perks you get, when you're working with the team. Also was invited to the All-Star game and the Home Run Derby. So it's a lot of fun being a part of this, and it's not, they're not expecting you to be there, 50, 60 hours a week. I'm helping out right now, they're working with me, on my schedule. So if I'm not able to attend anything or do anything, they're fine with that as well. But, we're a part of the foundation, and that's what I love a lot, that, we're, it got my foot into the door, not just in baseball, with the Dodgers, but also just sports-based, youth sports development, and also, foundational work, nonprofit. So now, I feel confident enough that, hopefully one day I could start my own, and, that's further down the line. But, if I could get that foundation, no pun intended, but if I could get that down right now, I think, I'm more than happy than with where I'm at.
Okay, so my career path was not linear and not conventional. When I was just a huge Dodger fan since the age of 13. I got the chicken pox during spring training, and back then we didn't have cable and stuff, so it was like 5 channels. And I was just at home during spring training and watched TV a lot and got to know the players and the coaching staff, and just kind of dove into not just the Dodgers, but just the game and just the nuances of how you play. But there was never like there were no women announcers. Um, Women just were not in there. So it just was never something that I thought I could be part of at that point. So, um, you know, I got my degree in 1992 at Dominguez Hills in political science with a minor in Spanish. I speak Spanish fluently, and I thought I could write it well until I took my first Spanish class at Dominguez, and I'm glad that I did it back then. I didn't take high school Spanish because the teachers back then they only taught Spain Spanish, and that's not what I had at home. And so I just was not gonna have somebody tell me that my Spanish was wrong. So yeah, I had an attitude. So so I did French. So I ended up with just as much French and Spanish when I graduated at that point. So my degree, though, what it did, and I honestly think had I not gone to Dominguez, which was a very small school at the time and had small class sizes, I don't think that I could have gone on to the master's and the doctorate. And what my bachelor's degree gave me, just the journey, was the opportunity to grow, to find a voice, to work on communication skills. And no matter what job you have to be able to be an effective communicator. My writing, which I was decent, was not when I got there. So my English apparently were up to par. And the critical thinkings and the self-advocacy. I'm first generation. My parents, I think my mom did third grade, but my dad, I think, got to second grade. And I think 2 out of my grandparents were illiterate in Spanish. And so I found I had to figure it out. That's one thing that my parents had to figure things out. And so I learned from them. And so what I learned at Dominguez during my bachelor's degree was self-advocacy, using my resources. And I did not go into law school for other reasons. I did really well on the LSAT and stuff, but I realized that was not the direction I wanted to go. And it was an internship that I did in a law office I realized that just wasn't it wasn't the direction I wanted to go. So I have a master's in public administration. And I think that's my most underutilized degree. I went into it right after undergrad in public administration. And I did not have a social network. And I went to USC. So, everybody talks about the Trojan network. Back then, that whole networking, that was not meant for people like me. I was a working student. I was married at that point. And, I finished with the degree, but there was no help for that at that time. Not like at Dominguez. There was a lot more help at Dominguez at that time than there was at USC, especially for working students. However, the concepts that I was exposed to and the theories that I was exposed to for that have really helped me as far as, how to be a manager and be a leader in a large organization. So I went into, I went into education. I kind of fell into it, and I stayed there until I ended up with my doctorate in educational psychology, which really was what catapulted me to kind of another level.
Thank you so much, Catalina. And I really appreciate you sharing with our students that your career is not linear. As someone in career services, that's something we say over and over, because we often think, especially as first-gen students, we think that my degree equals only this job, right? Like it's only this little box, when in actuality, you can create your opportunities. And a lot of our students are first generation, right? Like myself, I'm also first gen, and my dad, just like you, my dad had a third grade level. My mom didn't finish high school, and you just learn to figure it out. And I think that's one of the strengths of our students. So with that said, and you kind of touched upon it, and you did too, Nicholas. And I want to ask you a little more about, as our students are thinking about their careers, right? Like, how important as candidates, right, for them to have related skills and experiences such as internships. Catalina, you talked about, I did it in a law office, I didn't like it, and I realized I need to transition into another. So we teach that to the students in the Career Center, like, hey, that's the purpose of an internship, to figure out what you want to do. Also thinking along the important is for them to develop those related skills and experiences.
I can start off with that because I do a lot of mentoring, mostly like graduate students or people who are transitioning and later on in their professions. But and also as a mom. So I have, I have a almost 25-year-old daughter. And I have a 19-year-old who is a freshman at CSUN this year, right? So I've now seen it from like the parent point of view in today's job market, which is very, very different than when I entered the job market many years ago. But particularly in education, which is what I ended up, that's the industry that I ended up in, getting the opportunity to shadow, volunteer. Nicholas, is a perfect example of like, you were volunteering and you found something that was interesting to you, or interning in a school environment so that you can actually kind of see what goes on in the day to day. Because we had kind of idealized that maybe like, oh, when I get into the classroom, it's going to be wonderful. I remember shadowing a semester at Lenox High School. Yeah, the high school in Lenox, Lusinger High School, sorry, locally, and this Dominguez Hills set that up for me. And sitting in like kind of the back, I did not get involved, and the things I saw was just like, oh my goodness, watching the day to day of what it meant to be in a classroom. At that point, I had decided I was not going to go into education. There were just, I just didn't feel it. Now, formal internships, I have a bit of, it's one of my, everybody talks about, oh, you need to get an internship. Well, some of us did not, don't have the privilege of taking time off and going to do an internship for no pay. That's just not, it's not something that we can necessarily do, or move and pay for the moving costs for, a summer internship in Florida and things like that. But that shouldn't stop us. So I really think that working around that through volunteering, joining organizations, professional organizations in the industry that you think you wanna delve into, post-COVID, there's so much on Zoom, online conferences, join, and you'll get to meet people that way. And through the volunteering, through the, joining conferences, that you're like, well, who am I? Like, what am I going to say? You know what? I'm a student and I'm just curious. And that's why I'm here. Professionals love that. I love when I'm like, this kid who wants to be an archaeologist all of a sudden ends up in one of the platforms that I'm on. Like, what? And it's a great conversation, right? And now I know that kid because he wanted to be an archaeologist, but here he is talking to me. And so that's a way to kind of go around that, and be exposed to different things and explore, right? Don't stay in your lane sometimes. Do something for fun as well. Like, I love baseball. It was my fun thing. And I ended up kind of detouring this direction because it was a fun thing and it ended up overlapping with a job opportunity.
Thanks.
So for myself, I could give from a current student perspective, of just kind of a breakdown of what I'm doing, and just kind of to touch back on the last question. I know I forgot to incorporate, how school, how school and work, come together at the end. So I'm just starting to take my major classes. So last semester I took a sports management class. And with Professor Yan, that's actually where I met Felicia. So that's, how she found out about me and was able to invite me over. And we would have, plenty of speakers there, plenty of people in different, fields of sports, and for myself, I love baseball, I love, what I do, but I know I'm also at a point where I'm able to try out other things. And that doesn't necessarily mean I need to give up, completely on baseball. I'm also working in music right now. I work with the record label as assistant management. I also manage independently. So I'm doing these things, on my free time when I can. And actually, my business partner is in here somewhere as well, I think, in the Zoom call. So very fortunate to be in these two industries. Another thing, I'm finding out that I might want to try something else. Like you said, this is what internships are for. While we're in college, try out different things. That's why I always encourage people to do, anything they love to do. Because we're at this age, and then beyond this, beyond college, just once you graduate, doesn't mean that you have to know your field, but if you know that you're in the right track, then that's a great thing. For myself, I know that I want to stay involved with baseball. But I also know that I want to try other fields, just anything else that I find interesting. And hopefully one day I'm able to do, balance everything that I love to do, and not in a way where I'm stressing myself out, where I'm not sleeping, where I'm not seeing my friends and family, but just finding that balance and being able to, just not perfect everything, but just have an idea of what I'm doing there, like just to have an idea of when I'm around baseball, if somebody, hey, I'm not going to make it to this game, or little league team because the assistant coach will be here. Cool, I can jump in and I know exactly what to do. Hey, my little brother, my little sister needs help with this subject. I need somebody to help them. Like, I could help out. Just try to fit into any avenue that you feel fit in. And I'm thankful for everybody that's around me that I could shadow and I could look after and I could see how they do things. That's a big part of what I do is a lot of times I'm shadowing people. Even when I'm working with my dad, I'm working over him. I'm looking to see what he does, and just by observing, asking questions, and just trying as well, I'm able to get to a point where he could trust me to do something, or if I'm whether it's in music, if somebody needs me to help handle any revenue, anything like that, emails, anything, I know that I could help out with that. So and right now I'm still just trying to if whatever I end up doing, I know that I'm gonna love doing it, and I know that it's gonna be something that I'm sure of because I'm getting more experience with it right now. And even then, if that never works out, maybe I have something else to rely on. And that's something that my parents really emphasize on me, is making sure that you have not just backup plans, but also just doing something else that you love and understanding that field and just being able to continue doing it. And so I mean, to all the students out there, there's plenty of internships. I'm constantly getting emails about different internships popping up, and a lot of times I look through them. Sometimes maybe it's not something I'm interested in, but I still want to check it out. Or maybe it is, and I'll submit a resume. And if I don't, oh well, it's there's always a lot more opportunities that are out there. Especially, like I tell everyone, we're in Los Angeles. We're within driving distance to a lot of these things. We have some of the best sports franchises in the world. With the Lakers, Dodgers, even Galaxy. They're literally across the parking lot. We have the music business, we have movie industry. We have all of this around us, and we're very fortunate to be within arm's reach of them. And I think if you see an opportunity, even if you don't have experience in it, I'd always say just send in a resume, or get to know somebody in that field, and just ask them questions, pick their brain about it. Just say, hey, I'm doing this, I'm working on this, can you help look over this, can you help me do this, I have a question about this. And that's what I always encourage people to do.
Thanks, Nicholas. And actually your response kind of aligns with one of the questions in the chat from a student. And this is from Michaela. Michaela is a computer science major, and she's currently a senior. And she's wondering what types of opportunities with her computer science degree. So anything in technology, if there's anything available that you all know of.
Well, so one of my buddies is actually the highest ranking Latino on the Dodgers, and he is the vice president, senior vice president of IT. Ralph Esquivel. So that's his name, Ralph Esquivel. Find him on LinkedIn, send him a note, tell him that I sent you. There are, IT is, it's the spine of everything now. We have the computer science component of it, and even that I'm learning every day all that entails. In the entertainment industry, there's the infrastructure, making sure that we all have access. So we're international. we've got scouts in Korea, we've got scouts in Africa, we've got scouts everywhere, and then we've got all of Latin America, and we all need to be connected 24/7. And player development, that's how it is. So there's that component. Then there's like the actual game day. All that has to happen, God forbid right now that we're cashless, the system goes down. How do you, yeah, exactly, like you cannot buy the hot dog, and that's important. So there's just that is something a lot of people don't think about, but it is such a an area of need and constant growth that we underestimate. And so there is definitely there's always opportunity there, and definitely reach out. Then there's like the it's a little different, but they're the numbers people, our analytics. Baseball, I'm a traditionalist, so I'm not into the whole money ball thing, but that's the reality. And so we have, in the STEM area, we have our analysts, and they have their specializations. We have people with PhDs in physics, because we're analyzing the trajectory of the ball and the spin and all of that. So if you're a STEM person, there's a place for you as well.
Yeah, so personally, I am, I'm not too sure about, there's openings, but I do know, like Kathy was saying, in the stadium, obviously there's, all fields are in there, computer science, even if you're in business and you want to do accounting for the Dodgers, you could do that. If you want to be a chef, you could be a chef at the stadium. There's always these opportunities that go, and it's funny that you mentioned that there's the concessions, something ever messes up, because I don't know if anybody here remembers or if anybody was there last year, but last opening day they went just ordering on your phone, and that was it only lasted one day. The Dodgers came on social media and announced that they weren't going to do that again. So if you think that's something you could help out with, obviously there's something for every field. And yeah, even for myself, if I know that, if there's anything that I want to do, I have this business, while I'm working towards a bachelor's, if I ever want to get into business with the team, I know I could do that. And that's something that, I'm big on, wanting to learn, so that way I could understand it, because if there's anything, just getting into just getting your foot into the door, it just opens up so many more opportunities. And yeah, so if you have questions, you I'm on LinkedIn as well. I'll put that. But yeah, there's always plenty of opportunities around the stadium, not even just around the stadium. Like Kathy was mentioning, we're international, we have scouts all over the place, is anything like that in that field, there's always going to be opportunities open for, whatever it is anybody wants to do, obviously even like, medical things like that, so that, yeah, that's what I have to say.
Thanks so much, Nicholas. And Catalina, you've all shared some amazing, just to summarize, and I'm going to ask one last question before we turn it over to our audience, but the importance of network connecting, really reflecting on your skills that you're developing in your degree, taking chances, right? And kind of, if you fall forward and you move on, right? You try different things and not being afraid, because I think that's often the case with our students. They see big organizations like the Dodgers, and Nicholas, you summarized it like, we're in LA, we got the Dodgers, we have the Rams, we have all these great teams and opportunities. But with that said, I want you, if you can give maybe your last nugget of advice to the students in terms of what recommendations would you want to give them, and what resources can they utilize from campus to help them stand out, right? Or kind of launch their careers into the field.
If you don't mind, if I could go first. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I'm constantly getting emails from I'm also but this is my counselor for sports, entertainment, and hospitality. She's constantly sending out emails saying when there's opportunities and everything, whether she's always saying, in sports or in music, movies, sometimes even just like HR, anything in that field. And yeah, like I said, just always go for it. I'm constantly falling down on my face first, and getting rejected by certain people, by in different fields, or messing up here and there. I know that I could bounce back. I know I have the ability to bounce back and be able to just work through it. There's always going to be these times that, hold me down, but, at the end of the day, I'm confident enough to approach someone, even if I don't get the job, I'm confident that I left that much of an impression that, they will remember me. Maybe if I'm not ready right now, I could be ready in a year, I could be ready in 2 years, or maybe in a few years. There's still a lot of things that I'm figuring out. But, for anybody out here, there's a lot of resources on campus. You could even go to, our career center, any of these offices, and they're always willing to help you. Even with the alumni, I know they're always willing to help out. There's a lot of great alumni. Kathy's an example. We have great alumni here on campus. And Dominguez has this reputation of being just a smaller CSU. They always say that it's not the best and anything, but I love coming here, because we have just as many resources as these other big schools. I'm closer to home. I feel a lot. There's a lot of people that look like me on campus. That makes me feel a lot more comfortable. It makes me feel more confident. Going to classes. And that's what I appreciate is that we have all these resources. Here, and this is for us, this is for the students. This is what we should be using. A lot of people, I'm constantly telling people that are seniors, and I take them to places on campus, and they're like, I've never even heard of this. I didn't even know the writing center existed. I had no idea we had this. I'm like, a lot of people don't even know we have a game room. That's like little things like that. And it's like, explore your campus. Even if there's anybody here that isn't at Dominguez, just understand what your school has to offer, and emphasize on that, and just wanting to be involved, and that's a big thing. When people see that you're trying, it shows something. It shows that you want to be in that field. It shows that you want to, that you're a hard worker, or that you show resilience, and you want to be able to just kind of like I said, I guess just plain and simple, just take advantage of the resources. There's plenty here on campus. There's a lot of students. For me, if it wasn't for networking, I would have probably never got my foot in the door at any of these industries, because it's just, I meet one person, it could be in the randomest place, but it grows into something else. Just having an idea of, if I approach someone, I know I could tell them, oh, I'm actually working on this, that, and maybe they don't have an opportunity for you, but maybe somebody else does. And from there, it just branches off, and, just opens a whole new world to everybody that, everybody around you as well. So yeah, just, at the end of the day, just knowing what your school has to offer, anywhere you go, knowing what your workplace has to offer as well, just anything like that. I know with the Dodgers, they're very big on helping us out, even just, things like our mental health. We could talk to our, higher ups, because, if we're if we're trained in trauma-based training, obviously the people helping us are as well, and we all help each other out. It's not like, it's just, building a community, and, having the resources available.
So I'm going to piggyback and start off with develop relationships with, who took time to get to know me, which I was really appreciative of. In another school, I wouldn't have had that. And so, I always kind of give the shout out to, old professors that really made a difference. It was like Francis Lauerhouse, Jake Kaplan, Lyman Chafee. They were just, they were incredible. They became allies, and we had nothing in common. But they were great. So developing relationships with those professors, in case you want to, like, at some point in your in the trajectory of your academics, to go get a further degree, right? You're going to need that letter of recommendation, and it's really nice when you develop the relationship. Professors love, teachers love it when you go and actually visit them, because we're sitting there and we're waiting for for someone to come in. So even if it's to just to discuss a point that you don't agree with them, like, we're like, okay, you want to spar? Let's do this. That's great to be able to do that in a safe space. So develop those relationships while you're there. job opportunities, right? If you want to go into the sports industry, as Nicholas pointed out, we have the, some of the most well-known franchises in the world. That means for every application, for every job opening, there are thousands of applicants, right? This is our backyard, but at the same time, like, this is where people want to end up. I think, I talk to people in Chicago, I talk to people all over the place, and they're like, oh my goodness, like, one day I want to go to LA and work in LA. Okay, so we're competing with all of those people. So, okay, we also have other sports franchises, smaller sports. We've got like baseball. Rancho Cucamonga is part of the Dodgers organization. See if you can work there, especially if you live in that particular area. There are minor league teams throughout Southern California. There are, there are youth sports organizations, AYSOs. There's so much of sport in the area that you can start off there and get the skill sets to then kind of, find your way in and start getting to know those people. So do not be disheartened if you do not get an acknowledgement, after you sent in an application for a position with the Dodgers or the Lakers, because like I said, this is the big time right here. So, but look at periphery, right? Look at sponsors, like who sponsors the Dodgers, right? My niece wanted to go into sports. She now works for Golden Road. They're a major sponsor. That's how she found her way, because she realized, oh, sponsorships, I actually like that. So, kind of be creative in how you navigate trying to come in into the sports industry. And finally, I have notes. I don't keep this in my head. I have ADD, so I'd be all over the place. It definitely use your resources the school offers, the writing center, career planning resources, working on that resume. What does that look like? How do you tailor it to the jobs that you're applying to? How to network, get comfortable being in uncomfortable spaces. My youngest daughter, she literally has social anxiety. So what have I done? Her whole middle school and high school, I would take her with me to, I used to work with the Mexican consulate on events and things. And, talk about being comfortable. Now you're sitting there with people who have masters in Spain, from Spain and from Mexico, who speak in a whole other Spanish that I can't speak. And I would take her. And so that she would be uncomfortable there and hone that kind of talking about yourself, doing your elevator speech. So she's got it down now because she was working on it when it was awful. It was so awkward to watch her, but I knew that we had to work on that. So, be able to speak to your strengths. Don't focus on your negatives. We all have weaknesses. You're going to work on those. Make sure you do. But what is it that you bring to the table? And what you bring to the table is unique, especially if you're from Southern California. Those things that you think may put you at a disadvantage. So you are ESL, English language learner. So was I. You know what? I speak 2 languages. I speak 3 actually. But, that gives me a different perspective. My parents didn't go to school. You know what? I know what work ethic looks like. I saw the struggle there. So those things that in the past were framed that they were negatives for me, I've realized now, and I use them to my advantage. And so really think about your narrative and come at it from what your perspective is unique, and we need you, around the table in the places that decisions are being made.
Thank you so much, Catalina and Nicholas, for sharing. It's been a really great experience to hear you all. And I want to be mindful and respectful of time. So I want to give the last 10 minutes to our audience to ask their questions. So if you do have a question, to kind of not all have everyone ask at the same time, can we raise a hand? And then you can unmute yourself, and that'll help us kind of mitigate that. So if you want to ask a question, raise your hand, and we'll let you unmute yourself to ask your question to our panelists. Ivan, do you want to unmute yourself so you can ask your question?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Hope you can all hear me. Just briefly, my name is Ivan. I'm a senior here at Dominguez, just like Nicholas. I'm also a major in sports entertainment hospitality management. The question I had, and funny enough, I'm trying to go into sports. Over the summer, I was actually part of the professional development program by the Los Angeles Sports Entertainment Commission. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. One thing I really, I guess you could say, was kind of thrown into the wild and kind of really learn what networking is and or how other people really do it, and you got to really take advantage, or else you're kind of like, that's on you. You're kind of screwed. Not to be rude or anything like that, but that's really the best way to put it. I feel one thing I did want to ask you, Catalina or Nicholas. I know you're Nicholas. You're more younger. You're more on my generation for sure. But so maybe you are dealing with this, but in Catalina, you're probably a pro at it. So what is one thing you kind of one thing I'm struggling with right now is kind of going out, reaching out, trying to get informational interviews with other people within the industry, trying to get familiar. What is the way to approach that, or what are something you kind of struggle with? Because I feel like I'm struggling to kind of get out there, and reach out to certain people, like that. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. What has been your experience, or like how do you approach that?
Kathy, would you like to start off with that one? I could go, yeah.
Yeah, I'll start off. I don't like the transactional kind of feeling of networking, because I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't raised to like, oh, I'm going to you because I need something from you, right? So I like to call it developing relationships, and that, so that's helpful, right? It puts me in that frame of mind. Free conferences or that are online in the industry, like, find them. What are groups that exist in this space that you want to be in? Start following them on LinkedIn, because then you get updates and you're like, oh, there's going to be some panel. You know what? I'm just going to join. Is whenever we put panels together, we're just happy people show up. So just do that, and kind of be, like I said, you could be honest. Like, I'm new. I'm just looking to get information. What has your journey looked like? We love talking about ourselves. So when you tell somebody, hey, what are the challenges? What does your journey look like? Most of the time you will get responses. You can do like literal cold messaging on LinkedIn. I've done it. But like you said, I'm seasoned. And so there are certain things that, I have the privilege of getting responses, and I'm very aware of that. But like I said, I have 2 daughters, and when they do cold, messaging, they'll message 5 people. Maybe one will respond, and great, we're happy with that. It's not, it's not on you. It's just people are busy, or sometimes they don't check their LinkedIn, which is, I'll get responses 3 months later from somebody, and they're like, oh, I just hadn't checked. I'm going to do a plug for a networking group called Latinx in Sports. I think they're mostly on Instagram or Twitter, something like that. So connect with them, because they also have resources.
Thank you.
So from my experience, just kind of based on like, how to approach, how to network, or how I network, how I approach people, or what I do during the interviews. One big thing is just being very organic and being very natural. One thing that my manager that I work with this record label, he always emphasizes, he always tells everybody, reminds everyone that he wants to be friends with somebody before, they're able to, work together. That's not necessarily always the case. Sometimes you do have to, go to these, these interviews, and obviously meet them for the first time there. But, when you're networking, I always like doing it in person. So I like going to different events, being able to meet people, somebody that could help me and somebody that I could help. That's how I always look at it. So, if you see somebody that, you would love to work for, it's not a matter of, it's just being very natural, going in there confidently and saying, explaining your situation. I'm constantly telling people like, I'm still learning, as much as long as I've been doing, any of these fields, I still have a lot to learn, but this is what I have to offer for you. And, from there, you just open up, if a lot of times I see people, and it's happened to me too, you freeze up or you just don't know how to approach someone. You get so nervous. I've been in interviews and, it's to me, I get scared, I get nervous, but, at the end of the day, I know that as long as I go in there, present myself, and just be able to, just show that I'm confident, I know that I could leave an impression. I know that somebody will remember my presence and just be able to understand that, I do want to do this, I do want to do that, and just making it feel as organic as possible, and like when I first started working with the Dodgers, the first time I applied in 2018, I didn't get hired. I remember, a lot of the people remembered me from the interview process. And the second time I went in, I was able to get it, I was able to make it. I took a lot of the stuff that I did wrong or that I thought I did wrong in that first interview. And, I was like, I didn't leave a terrible impression. I still was able to introduce myself. I still have this, I still know that I left my mark. So we'll try again. Obviously the pandemic happened. Nobody was able to get a job. It was this weird space. But, once I got back in 2021, a lot of those people remembered me. I walked through the doors. Oh, hey, Nicholas. Yeah, I remember you used to volunteer. I remember you applied this last time. Hey, welcome back. And, I'm currently in my second year with them. And it's because it feels way more organic. And, a lot of these people I've known for a while, when I'm around them, it doesn't feel like I'm at work. It just feels more so that, I love being where I'm at. We could all just rely on each other. Like I mentioned earlier, we all understand that, mental health is a lot. They understand that I get nervous, and if I'm in a situation like that, they understand that, I could get, I could stutter sometimes, which is kind of like what I'm doing right now. But, it's just like, it's a way more organic relationship that I try to form with someone. Obviously I'm not trying to be buddy with them. I'm not going to go in there and just like, high five and I'm going to, still approach them the same way, but I'm going to just be more of myself, when I'm approaching anybody of that caliber.
Thank you. And you're doing great. We all get nervous, so don't worry. It happens.
Thank you.
And then Sergio, I want to go ahead and be mindful. We got 2 minutes, so go ahead and ask your question so we can try to get folks to respond.
Okay. Hi. Hello. Can you guys hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Can hear you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sergio Ramos. I'm a freshman here at CSUDH. And just like Nicholas, my major is sports entertainment hospitality. First, I just want to say thank you guys for having this meeting. For me, whose dream is to eventually work one day for the Dodgers, this is like a great resource for me. So thank you guys for that. My question I want to ask was I just want to know how do I get my foot in the door? How do I first start? How do I start this dream? How do I make this dream a reality? I know we're talking about internships and all that, but I just want to know how do I start? How do I get there? And also, this is for both Nicholas and Catalina. If there was any way if I could meet with you guys in person later, or even throughout my college years, to get more advice to you guys, I would really like the opportunity as well to meet with you guys in person, talk about it.
And that's, that's networking. There you go. You just plugged it in. That was perfect. There's 2 ways as far as getting your foot in the door: volunteering, as Nicholas has done just an incredible job of doing that. But thinking about it 2 ways, and this is what I usually tell older students is there a specific, do you just want to work in sports? It's that the dream. You're like, I don't care where, I'll figure it out. Okay. Then you're looking at entry level, where you're just trying to get your foot in the door, whether it's ushering or merchandising or whatever. Now, if you're maybe computer science or accounting or something like that, you're like, I ultimately would like to work for a sports team. Then you have other options where you can hone your skills, get experience, and then lateral in, stay connected with the sports people and the sports networks. and then just lateral in, you at that point you have a little bit more leverage because you're already coming in with certain skill sets. So there's two ways, like, depending on your circumstances and what your end goal that you think you have right now, that you would be able to to kind of eventually end up either with the Dodgers or with one of the other larger organizations in LA.
So one thing I could say, just, this is also very just straightforward. And also I just want to say, thank you for attending, because, like I said, this is one of the resources that we want to take advantage of. This is something that we want to, make sure that we take advantage of and just understand, the benefits of it. So just, a very straightforward answer is that, MLB, and not just MLB, but almost every company you could think of, if you just type in your URL like MLB careers, you could find these pages of just different job opportunities, and for myself, like, I'm sorry, I don't remember if you answered that, if there's a specific field you would like to get into, like, do you want to just be more, just like hands-on, like, something like what I'm doing, or, anything like, business side of it? But just, so I'm sorry, what was it that you plan on, wanting to get into?
My dream is like in Catalina, like in the baseball operations, like in the management side of sports. Like that's my dream, to like work for like a sports team and like the management side of it.
Yeah, no, because sorry. No, go for it.
For that, that's so specific, and so little is out there on that I would definitely, suggest you connect with me, send me a message on LinkedIn. And, like I said, there's that particular part there's so little written about, that I'd love to kind of just tell you what's involved with that. And you can start kind of, and I could kind of connect you with people who can answer some of your questions, that who are already doing some of the jobs that you may be interested in. Granted, it's always we're on the off season. During the season, people are busy, but in the off season, definitely they would like to talk. They'd like to. Well, the people I always recommend are people who are nice. So the other thing, and Nick, I don't know if you're familiar with Teamwork Online. It's specifically for jobs in the sports industry. I did not know they existed until 2019. And it's because my daughter was looking for a job in sports, and she told me, she's like, no, there's like this site. So Teamwork Online is great because it shows you also all the different types of jobs that are available that I had no clue existed.
So, and just like on top of that as well, if even if that, because that's also something that I would want to get into as well. But even just doing something like this, like what I'm doing right now is just starting with the foundation. There's also somebody that that I work with that's a little higher up in the foundation. She started off in the hospitality field with the Dodgers, and from there she would always help out a lot of the people that were higher up in the foundation. So from there they brought her over from the hospitality program to the foundation. So it's not like you necessarily have to find your way straight to to that field, but just kind of taking those steps along the way. What I like doing is I love what I do, and the way it helps me is it helps me understand players a lot more. So that way, if I ever get into that field, if I ever get into management, I know that I understand a player's perspective. I understand what they're going through and how I could help them. I'm really huge on just making sure that these players get the money that they deserve, that nobody's shorting them. Like what Kathy does, I think that's amazing, because like she said, a lot of these kids, they bring them to this country, and they could give them a smaller paycheck, and to the it might be it might seem like a lot of money at the time. We see a lot of players that are recently getting these contracts that are just way below their pay grade. I want to be able to help them. So if I start off right here at a youth level, I know that I understand the player's perspective, and I understand what my goal is for them. So if this is something you're interested in, we just ended our tenure for the summer, but if you're interested, I could go send you a link in January, or I believe it's December, when it might even be as early as October. You could register for this, and as long as you are and you're studying the same thing I am, that gives you a heads up when you put it on your resume. And on top of that, it's not like you need to have a bachelor's. It's not like you need to have a PhD or anything to do, work with the foundation. But it's a great stepping stone. It's something that I'm grateful to be a part of because like I said, I'm able to just try out different things right now. It's not taking up all my time, but I could tell people, hey, I actually work with the Dodgers Foundation. This is what I do. This is what I do. This is what I have to offer. So, if this is something you'd like to start off with, you could contact me after. I help you go over the process. But you don't necessarily have to just try to find something in that field. Just alongside that field. Yet, you could start taking steps towards that direction.
Thank you, Nicholas. And
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Sergio, for your question and for being brave to do it. Because again, that's one of the things we've been stressing. Ask your questions, because I always tell students, there's no such thing as a stupid question, right? Because any question, there's an answer, right? So we'll try to figure it out together. I do want to thank our panelists for just sharing such wealth of information with our students. I learned a lot, and thank you for letting me be your facilitator. I'm going to hand it over to Felicia to close us off tonight. Excuse me.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Again, a round of applause for our panelists. That right there was the power of the Toro Network for sure. And I just thank you both for participating in this evening's event. And I hope all of our Toros were able to ask more, are able to start thinking about their trajectory and start thinking about now while you're on your college journey on how to pursue your industry. And I did put it in the chat where we have an online platform called Toro Connect. I added the link, and Toro Connect is an online platform which you can connect to alumni in a variety of different majors, industries, hobbies, and you have access to them all across the world. And so our alumni are here to support you, want to be able to help you navigate your college journey and along, and then well after graduation as well. So again, thank you guys so much. And one last plug for the Dodger game. If you have not gotten your tickets, Gilbert just put in the link for how to purchase your tickets. Again, you get a co-branded hat that says LA Dodgers and CSUDH on the side with the DH horns below the bill. And then also, I almost forgot, the local student union will be offering free transportation to the first 200 students. So if you need a ride to the stadium and have already your ticket, it's a proof of purchase. You show that you brought your ticket, you will be able to join the local student union to jump on the bus on their way to Dodger Stadium. And you can register on Toro Link for the game. So with that, thank you again to Catalina and Nicholas. Nicholas, best of luck this semester. We will see you at graduation. And Catalina, again, thank you. We will be following up and we'll see you soon. Thank you
very much for having us.
Once a Toro, always a Toro.
If you don't mind, do you mind if I stay on a little longer in case anybody else has a question?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll be on here in case anybody needs, wants to discuss something as well. But thank you again for having me.
No problem, Nicholas. I'll make you a co-host.
Okay.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Stop recording.
Let's see.